They called it the OptiBomb. For years, that nickname followed the Mercury Optimax everywhere it went. Some boaters considered it a ticking time bomb waiting to fail. Others considered it the greatest two-stroke outboard Mercury ever built. And somehow, both sides ended up with evidence to support their case. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the Optimax earned its infamous reputation, how it became one of the most respected engines in bars fishing, and why the truth is far more complicated than either side wants to admit. Let's get into it. The problem Mercury was trying to solve. To understand the Optimax, you have to rewind to the early 1990s. The EPA was tightening its grip on marine emissions, and the conversation in the industry was blunt. Traditional two-stroke carbureted outboards were on borrowed time. They burned too dirty. They wasted too much fuel. Regulations were coming, and every major manufacturer knew it. Mercury Marine faced a choice: follow the crowd toward four-stroke engines, or find a way to make the two-stroke survive. They chose to fight for the two-stroke, and in doing so, they co-developed a revolutionary technology with an Australian company called Orbital. The result launched in 1996, the Mercury Optimax, a direct fuel injection two-stroke that promised to change everything. Here's what made it different from every two-stroke that came before it. Traditional two-strokes inject fuel into the crankcase, which means some of it blows straight out the exhaust before it even burns. It's wasteful, it's dirty, and it's why old two-strokes smoke. The Optimax completely abandoned that approach. Instead, it used a combination of high-pressure fuel injection and a dedicated air compressor to blast a finely atomized fuel-air mixture directly into the combustion chamber. After the exhaust port had already closed. No fuel wasted, no raw fuel out the exhaust. Cleaner combustion, better efficiency, and the raw whole-shot power that two-stroke fans had always loved. On paper, it was a genuine breakthrough. The power-to-weight ratio of a two-stroke with emissions that could actually satisfy regulators. Mercury marketed it as the best of both worlds. But then reality showed up. The OptiBomb years. The first-generation Optimax engines, roughly 1996 through 2001, developed a reputation that still haunts the platform today. And that reputation had a name the boating community coined themselves, the OptiBomb. Here's what happened. The early fuel injection components had serious reliability issues. Fuel rails rusted, tracker valves failed, injectors malfunctioned. And when the fuel delivery system on a direct injection engine fails, it doesn't just leave you stranded, it can run cylinders lean, and lean cylinders mean catastrophic heat buildup. Pistons melted, wrist pin bearings failed, power heads detonated. One contributing factor that mechanics who worked the warranty line still talk about: cost-cutting on early production models. The story circulating in dealer circles was that after the initial engineering breakthrough, pressure to reduce manufacturing costs led to cheaper injection components being used. And those components weren't up to the demands of the system. Mercury issued service bulletins and quietly replaced injectors and fuel rails on affected engines. But it wasn't a formal recall in the traditional sense. Many engines blew up before owners knew there was a fix available. If you were one of those owners, your Optimax opinion was set in stone, and those opinions travel far on the internet. But here's the twist that the doom and gloom crowd doesn't want to tell you. Mercury went back to the drawing board. The redemption arc. Around 2002, Mercury addressed the core issues that had plagued the early engines. New fuel rails, redesigned injectors, updated tracker valve components, revised engine management software. The results were dramatic. Mechanics and dealers who track these things consistently report the same pattern. Optimax engines from 2002 forward were measurably more reliable than the early models. And from 2006 onward, the platform had hit its stride. What had been an engineering liability became a genuine asset. The engine that bass tournament anglers started gravitating toward for one specific reason: hole shot acceleration. When you need to get a 21-foot bass boat up on plane fast, when every second counts in a tournament setting, nothing in the mid-power range touched the Optimax's low-end torque delivery. The direct injection system that caused so many early headaches turned out to be the same technology that made the engine scream off the line. It covered a massive range, from a 1.5-liter inline 3-cylinder 75-horsepower model all the way up to a 3.0-liter V6 producing 300 horsepower in the Pro XS configuration. Lightweight for its power output, exceptional hole shot, fuel efficiency that beat carbureted two-strokes by a wide margin. For a decade plus after the early struggles, the Optimax became the engine of choice for bass anglers, bay boaters, and anyone who needed lightweight power without the bulk of a four-stroke. But every story has a second act of trouble, and the Optimax had one baked in from the beginning: the engineering Achilles heel. Even on the improved post-2002 models, there were two components that owners learned to watch like a hawk. The first was the air compressor. Unlike a conventional engine, the Optimax required an external belt-driven air compressor to supply the pressurized air that made its injection system work. That compressor was a mechanical wear item, and at somewhere between 500 and 700 hours, compressor failures were not uncommon. Replacing one isn't a simple job, and it isn't cheap. New compressors run well over $1,000, and that's before labor. This was also a major contributor to the other thing Optimax owners had to make peace with: noise. That external compressor, spinning at high speed to keep the air rail pressurized, added an acoustic signature that set the Optimax apart from anything else on the water. At idle, these engines could be genuinely loud. Not everyone loved that. The second watchlist item was ignition coils. The smaller displacement Optimax engines, the 75, 90, and 115 models, used 3 individual coils, and coil failures were a documented pattern. One owner, with a 2006 90 horsepower model, went through 3 separate coil failures in 4 years. Each one was a warranty repair, but each one was also a trip to the marina and a week off the water. The lesson the Optimax community learned the hard way: this is a sophisticated engine. It rewards owners who pay attention to it. It punishes owners who ignore it. Why Mercury finally pulled the plug. In May 2018, Mercury Marine announced the end of Optimax production. No dramatic press conference, no Evinrude-style overnight shutdown. Just a quiet announcement that the platform was being discontinued and replaced by a new generation of V6 and V8 four-stroke engines. The reason came down to one word: emissions. The Optimax, even in its refined final form, was a two-stroke engine in a regulatory environment that was increasingly hostile to two-strokes. Mercury had worked hard to keep the Optimax compliant through successive EPA regulations, including engineering what they called NTE-compliant versions to meet tightening standards. But the path forward required ever more complex solutions to emissions requirements, and at some point the math stopped working. The four-stroke Pro X that replaced it was specifically designed to fill the same role: low-end torque, bass boat performance, lightweight for its power class, without the emissions compliance burden. Mercury made the transition on their terms, unlike Evinrude, which was caught by the pandemic with nowhere to go. The Optimax didn't die because it failed. It died because the world around it changed. What the used market tells us today. Here's what's genuinely revealing about the Optimax story. Look at how these engines behave on the used market. A well-maintained post-2006 Optimax especially the 200 or 225 horsepower V6 models, holds its value in a way that tells you exactly how the people who've actually owned them feel about them. The ones with documented service records move fast. Tournament anglers who know the platform seek them out specifically. Owners regularly report crossing 1,000 hours on the core powerhead without major failures. The block and internal engine components are solid. What needs attention are the wear items: the compressor, the coils, the injectors. And if those are maintained, the engine keeps running. The flip side is equally true. A neglected Optimax with an unknown history and a flashing check engine light is a gamble no experienced buyer should take. Unlike a simple carbureted outboard where a backyard mechanic can sort most problems, the Optimax requires Mercury-specific diagnostic software to read fault codes properly. That means a dealer visit every time something talks back at you. If your nearest qualified Mercury technician is 2 hours away, an Optimax may not be the right fit for where you keep your boat. The verdict. So what's the shocking truth about the Mercury Optimax? It's this. The same engine that earned the nickname OptiBomb in its first years went on to become one of the most capable and beloved performance outboards in bass fishing history. It was built on genuinely innovative technology, co-developed with engineers who were trying to solve a real problem. It stumbled badly at launch, recovered through hard engineering work, and delivered a decade of exceptional performance before emissions regulations quietly ended its run. It is not a cursed engine. It is not a perfect engine. It is a sophisticated, high-performance piece of marine technology that rewards informed ownership and punishes neglect. If you're looking at a pre-2002 model, walk away unless the price accounts for the risk. If you're looking at a 2006 or later model with clean service records and a healthy compressor, you might be looking at one of the best performance per dollar values in the used outboard market. And if you already own one that's been running strong for years, take care of it, because they don't make them anymore, and the people who know what these engines really are understand exactly what that means. Drop your Optimax stories in the comments. Good, bad, everything in between. We want to hear from the people who've actually run these things. And subscribe if you want more honest, deep dive content on the engines that shaped boating history.